Hello and welcome. Today we want to do question 14 from the October-November 2022 paper. It's on databases. So we have already done question 11, 12, and 13. So you can check from the previous videos. So the question reads, using fields from both tables, produce a tabular report that. Okay, so we want to produce a tabular report. And we are going to produce this tabular report from the two tables that we have created. So point to note, when we are creating reports, we use information, we use fields from the tables. You realize that on this paper, there are two reports that are expected to be created. Question 15 also says using fields from both tables, produce a tabular report that. So we want to create a report, but we take data from tables, right? Be careful that when you're now doing question 15, you have done a query for question 14 and you end up taking fields from a query. So you have to know from the start to say when I'm creating a report, I use information, I use fields from tables, from the original tables that I have imported. Okay, so now these pointers are now going down. So this is the things that we should check note as we're creating our report. This is the question. So we need to make sure that we take care of these pointers. So first one, it says select records where hull type is multi-hull, skip gender is female, points is 30 or less, shows only the fields. So because they say shows only the fields, it means that we have already imported two tables. But these two tables have a lot of fields. So we are not using all the fields from the two tables. Please take note. We are not using all the fields from the two tables. We are supposed to pick, we're supposed to select and show only the ones that the question paper have asked us to show. So in the order that they have been given, skipper name, nationality, yacht class, hull type, cell area, hull, beam, and points in this order. So there's a mark of making sure that your report is going to show these fields in this order that the question paper has requested. Okay? So with data and labels displayed in full, this is very important. So you have to make sure that your data is displayed in full, right? Do not group the data, right? Then the next pointer says sorts the data into ascending order of yacht class and descending order of points, has page orientation of portrait, fits on a single page with no page number displayed, includes only the text top female multi results as a title displayed in larger font, size at the top of the page, calculates the lowest points value and places this below points column at the end of the report, has a label lowest points score to the left of this value, has your name, sender number, and candidate number of the report, save the report and print. So we know that when we are now submitting our answers, we submit as printed form, right? So at the end, we are supposed to print. So it's so important that when you are taking in your task, writing these questions, you read through, right? So you now know this report, you now know you have familiarized yourself with question 14, and you now know what is expected of you on question 14. So now when you are creating reports, you have to go to the pointer where it says shows only. You have to go to the pointer where it says shows only the fields, right? That's where you start. Because when you are doing a report, you have to do a query first, and then you use that query to create a report, right? So when you are doing a query, you pick the fields that they want. You pick the fields that they want. So right now we are being told that they want this list of fields. So that's what we are going to do. You create your query and you pick the fields that the question wants you to use, right? But where are you picking these fields? You are picking them from tables. Always, whenever you have done another report, you've done a query before for another report that you have done, remember, you pick the fields from the table. So for this one, it's easier because we haven't done any query. This is the first time we're doing the query. We've just imported the fields. So now let's do the question. So we will go to our database and we have these two tables that we have imported. Now we want to create our query, right? You can either go query design or query wizard. Okay, so today we'll start with query wizard, right? So query wizard, I click my query wizard and I choose simple query wizard, click on OK. So now here it says table, right? And we agreed that we take fields from tables because what shows here it's either tables or queries. So in this list, it will show you all the tables and queries that we have in this database. Currently, we only have two tables, so that's why it is table, but this is class table and this is skippers table, right? So if you click aside, you see that skippers table, these are the fields that are available fields. These are the fields that are available under skippers, right? So because they are available under skippers, we are now saying which fields do we want to pick. So we are only going to pick the fields that we want. We go to our question paper. And when we go to the question paper, we are going to say shows only the fields, skipper name, nationality, yard class, HAL, type, cell, area, right? So let's pick these fields as they are requested. Okay, so we are going to start with skipper name, nationality, batch class, and then we go to skipper name. We pick using this selector, the single selector, skipper name, nationality. So we are picking them in the order that the question paper is requested. So we want to say skipper name, nationality, yard class, HAL type, cell area, yard class, HAL type, cell area. So you use that one to scroll down to look for the one that you want. Okay. So after nationality, we want yard class and HAL type. So now that when you are looking and you see that you are not finding the one that you want, you have to go to the other table. There we have our yard class. So we take our yard class, the one that we are not finding. So after yard class, we have HAL type, cell area, HAL type, using our single selector, cell area, using our single selector. Then we have HAL, beam, and points. HAL, beam, HAL, beam, and points. So now we don't have points. We go back to skippers and we look for points. There we have points there. Right, so this is the list that we want. Title of the query, usually we can leave it like that. It doesn't matter. We don't need to really change the name and you say finish. So this is the query we have created. So this query is the one that we use to create our report. But you can see that this query is actually 419 records. From this current query, we have 419 records. Okay, so we then move on. So we are done with this part here. Now we move on to this part. So when you're doing your query, you start from where it says shows only here. and you go up. You start from there. When you're done with that part, you then move up, right? So from shows only the fields, when you take in the list of the fields that have been asked, you go up with the query. So from shows only going up, that's where we deal with the query. And the query that they've worked on, that's the one we use to create the report. So from that same point going down, that's the information we use to do the report now. Okay, so we'll go one by one on these criteria. Select records where how type is multi-hull. So how type should be multi-hull. So when we go to our data, we can see that how type it, we have mono-hull, we have multi-hull. So we only want to have multi-hull. So we have to go to our design, right? So we look for how type. Under criteria, you can see that that's criteria, that's the row on criteria. Now you put multi-hull. So multi-hull. Because it says is multi-hull, right? The question paper is saying how type is multi-hull. So we just want multi-hull. So we type multi-hull as it is in the criteria, right? So we can go back in the criteria multi-hull. We type in, that's what we want. We just type in. When you click aside, you will see that it's going to have some quotes, double quotes that are put there. So those double quotes are put automatically with the access, right? You just type multi-hull. And when you have typed multi-hull, now you can say, okay, can I see? You can click on query design and run, or you can just go to datasheet view. So when you run, you want to see if that change that you have put in has affected. So you can see on how type you now have multi-hull only, and your records have reduced from 492 18 to 118, right? So now we have a total of 118. So something have changed. Now we can go back to our design and do the other criteria. Skip gender is female. Is female. So we type in female as it is, right? Under skip gender. So go back to our database. We go to skip gender, right? Right. There is a problem. We have to put a criteria under skip gender, of which the list of fields that we have been asked to put in, we don't have that skip gender. So what should we do? We have to add skip gender here. So what you do is you click, right? At the end, this one doesn't have anything, right? So I'm going to click there and then put in skip gender. From these ones, you can actually increase this. Even that part, you can actually choose to pull it down so that you can see. Just click, then pull it down so you can see all your fields. Because when you're now creating a query to show you the two tables that you have selected now when you're putting your criteria, it will show you the two tables because they have a relationship. And from these two tables, that's where we have these fields, right? Now we want to add another one. We said we click at the end. So the cursor is actually clicking at the end there. And then we look for skip gender. There is skip gender. When you find it, you just double tap. When you double tap, it's going to be added. And it's going to also show that it's coming from the table skipper. So the top part is showing the field. The second row is showing the name of the table where that field was taken from. Okay. So now skip gender is there, right? We have added skip gender because we want to select a criteria, female. So I'm going to type in female, right? After typing in female, we said just click aside and then you run. Okay. Or you can just go and show your datasheet view. So when you go to your datasheet view, it's now going to show that skip gender, it is selected. After points, we have added this one, skip gender. and all these are female. And you can see that that effect of saying I just want female has actually effected a change, and now we have 55 records, right? So the records are actually reducing and reducing. Okay. So now when we have, but remember, the question had actually said shows only fields. So whatever we have done, right, it doesn't mean that the skip gender should show, right? We have to end on points. So we are going to go back. So we just had to see our effect. And so we are going back to our design and we uncheck this box. Can you see here it's written show? So if the box is ticked, it means that it's going to show. So we are going to untick so that we want to just use it behind the scenes. So we are using skip gender behind the scenes. We don't want to see it. So when you run, now let's see. Now we are ending on points. And do we still have 55 records? Yes, we have 55 records. So this means that we have done this criteria very well. So we can now go on to the next one. So the next one is saying points is 30 or less. Okay. So under points, it has to be 30 or less than 30, right? So when we say it, we say it's less than or equal to 30. Mathematically, we say it's less than or equal to 30. So you just have to know the way of saying it properly so that you write it properly, right? Is 30 or less, right? That's how it has been written. But when you are saying it, right, properly or mathematically, you are just going to say this is less than or equal to 30. You cannot say it's equal to 30 less or less than, right? You are saying this is less than or equal to 30, less than or equal to 30, right? So when you go into your database now, under points, we go back to our design. That's where we do the changes. We look for points in the criteria. We say this has to be less than or equal to 30, just like that. And then you go to your datasheet view again to see the effect of that change. So under points, you can see that these are the points, and you can see that the maximum value is 30. So we have really effected the change on this one. So records are now 1 of 30. So we now have 30, total number of 30 records. And when you have done this, you are happy because when we read the question, it's actually said that it's going to have fit on a single page. So when you have 30 records, you feel right, yes, you have really done the criteria very well so that it's going to really fit on one page. So it's very important to do your criteria very well because this criteria is going to this is what is going to be used. So we are going to use this query that we have done these criteria to create the report. So when we do this, we are done with the query. We can now save the query and then start to do the report. So our report will start from shows only going down. Okay, so let's go to our database. When we are done, we always want to make sure that we close, right? Save changes, always save your changes, right? So now we have a blank area and working area, and now we have two tables and the query that we have created. Okay, so we are good. Now we are going to say, okay, I want to create the report now, right? Now I want to create the report, so I'm going to go and say report wizard, right? Now when I'm creating a report, I'm either going to be using tables or queries, okay? So when I'm creating a report, I use the query, right? I use the queries. The reason why I did the query was so that I will use it when I'm creating my report. So I'm going to click the down arrow, use the query. You can see that it's written query at start, and this is the name of the query. So this is the query that I created. So I'm just going to use this double selector to select everything to the side. To say these are the fields that I want to use in my query. Now I can move on. Next, the reason why they said do not group, it's because when you are grouping, let's do an example. Do you want to add any grouping levels, right? So we don't want to put any grouping levels. If I click on back here, you can see that this is, if your data is showing on one page like this is showing that this data doesn't have any grouping. But for example, if I click on that, right, and you can see that there is some data in there and there is some data in there, that shows that there is actually some grouping that is taking place, right? I want to group, you want to group by what? And we don't want to do any grouping. So you have to make sure that how do you want to view your data? You just want it to view it continuously without any grouping. So you're going to click on next when you see that your data is on that part. And when they say, do you want to add any grouping to this data that is showing continuously? And you don't want to do any grouping. So you're just going to say next, we don't do anything. And again, on this part, on when it asks you to sort, I would really prefer that you put on a star on the word sort in your question paper, right? Because after this, it actually tells you that sorts data, right? So you need to sort this data, but can you put in a star and say last item, right? So sorting is our last item in our reports. Why? Because we really want to make sure that we are effective and we are making sure that we use every minute that we have being productive, right? We don't need to waste time doing other things that are really not going to add marks, right? So if you put on sorting now, it's going to affect the arrangement that we have already done. Remember, we said on the point where it says shows only fields, it means that it's going to show those fields in the order, and there is a mark that we have already earned by making sure that we clicked them in the order, right? So we don't want to disrupt that. So if you sort early, like at this point, it's going to disrupt and you would need to rearrange, and we are wasting time on rearrangement. So we are going to do the sorting at the end when we are done with everything. Then we sort. So you put in on a star on your data and you say last item. You do that last. Okay. So we are going to skip sorting. We are going to do that as our last item. And already we have been told that they want a tabular report. So this is the layout that you are selecting. So we will leave it as tabular. And then orientation, we check again on the question paper. Here's page orientation of portrait, right? So we are going to select portrait. So it's already on portrait. We click on next. And then next question, it says, fits on a single page with no page number displayed, right? Okay, we'll make sure that it fits on one page. Then includes only the text top female results. So you need to type in this. When it asks you now to say, what do you want? I'm just going to copy, because this is the soft copy. I'll just copy and paste, but you would have to type. So I've copied. This is to be our title. And there's a mark for putting this title. So is a title displayed in a large font size at the top of the page. So we are going to continue with our database where it says, what title do you want? This is where you're going to type, right? I've just pasted because I copied. So that's the title. Then you click on finish. And wow, there is our report. And you can see that tall female is actually in larger font already, right? But look at our report. Look at our report. It's one page of one. We are happy. It is date, what. But take note, the question paper said it doesn't want any other data there. And the data should be displayed in full. In as much as we have done all this good work, this printout is the one that is going to be marked by our examiner. So the examiner doesn't know that we have done all this sweating through this work. So you just have to make sure that the data that you are going to present is actually seen clearly. Okay. So we need to now take care of all these hash symbols that we are seeing and make sure that the data is showing out, right? So we have to go on view, and we use the layout view. So the layout view is going to help us to make sure that we can see our things all clearly, nothing cut. What do? We click on the name, on the field name, right? You press on control, you keep your control pressed down, you move to the first data under that field. You click. So when you click now, you can release your control, right? And now you can adjust. We want to make sure that our data fits inside, isn't it? So we are putting, stretching it out so that all data can be seen. You can see this name. This name is very long. So you'd want to see it clearly, not to be cut. And you can actually scroll down here so that you can see if there's any other name that is long. So as long as that one is fitting, then that's fine. So this one as well, you click on the name, you click on the first, but this one we actually need to reduce because it's having a standard size of fields, but which is actually affecting other fields because they are no longer coming out. So we just have to make sure that nationality is showing. And then you can scroll down and you can see that all the data is showing. And you can actually even move it a bit if you want to have a slight space just to show that this is a field and they're not too close. You can just double tap and move it in front a bit, but you have already created some space there. So we click on the first one. We said we click on control. You make sure your control is pressed down. You don't release it. You click the first one and then you release. Now all data has been selected. And then you can double tap and stretch and where you wish, and then go to the other side. You click and drag in as well. And then you scroll to see all data is showing. You do the same, right? So we keep on doing the same so that all the data can be shown on our, so that we can get the marks because we have worked for the marks. And now this is going to be our printout. This is going to be a report that the examiner is going to be looking at. So we have to make sure that we do this. So if we had sorted now, you would realize that you will be having other data that has to be moved because they would have been jangled up. So we don't want to waste more time. We have to make sure that we finish the paper and be sure that we have tackled every question. So we will try by all means to make sure that we don't waste much time. Beam. And then that's the last one that is showing there. That's our points. Okay. So now we can see that our data is now showing out clearly. Right. So we have our fields. So there is a mark for actually making sure that this information is showing out clearly. Okay. Then after that, we go on to our question. Now we know our data is there. We are now at that point where it says calculates the lowest points value and places this below points column at the end of the report. Okay. So now we want to put on the lowest points. So we go to our database. We want the lowest points. And then the other one is actually says, has a label, lowest points score, right? So I actually can copy this so that I'll just put it in the database. So we are done with that. We can now go to our design. Right. Now we are saying under points, this is our points. And this is page header. This is the detail. So the lowest points, we are going to get it from the detail, right? So if you click on this one, you will not see the option. So you have to click on this one, the second one below, because this represents the detail. This is the header. It's just the headings of the fields. So when you click on it, you then say, okay, now I want to put the lowest point. I clicked on report design, right? Go to totals, that summation, and you have, they say sum, average, count, all these options are there. Because we want lowest, so we are going to click on minimum. So when you click on minimum, at the report footer, you can see that I'm saying report footer. We are going to see that. That is the calculation or the function that is going to calculate and bring us the lowest, right? And we are just going to add on a label instead. Said that put on a label. The label is going to be used to label this data that has been added. Okay, so when we click on label, we then bring that label down. Let me say first, label option is not bringing the star that I want. Okay, the star is now there. When I see that star, I can click and drag, and then I can type in lowest score. Okay, you are typing in, I just pasted because I had already copied from the question paper. Okay, so that gray square there, you can move it. If you click on it, it can help you to just move the data. So when you go to our view, we can then say, okay, let's see how it has come out. So this is the calculation that we have added, and this is the label that we have added. Okay, so we go on to the next one. Here's your name, sender number, candidate number in on the report, right? So we have to make sure that this is, sometimes we can have a report that has 2 pages, right? So we always want to make sure that we put our data on the page footer, right? So that every page of the report actually shows, right? So we can go now and put our, we go to our design so that we can put on the name. So for us to have marks, this is very important, because for us to have marks, we have to make sure that this is equals now is just for the date. Okay, so we are just going to remove. It's saying invalid because the other one has been removed. So I'm just removing one by one. And now we want to put on, we have removed that. So now we want to put on our name on the page footer, right? So we just want to make sure that we put our name on the page footer always, so that the name appears on the page footer, not on the report footer. If you put on the report footer, it means that if the report has 2 pages, the other page will not have our name. So we would really want to make sure that we have our name on the page footer, not report footer. Okay. So we go to our design so that we get this one, which is our label. And then we type in the name, right? That will be T Nasima. Then you put in your candidate and your sender number and your candidate number. Okay. Then you go into the question. Here's your name, sender number. Oh, that we've done. You save the report. Okay, so we've done everything. But remember, we had written sort last, right? So we need to sort. And then when we do that, we make our printout. Make sure that you have entered your sender number, candidate number on your report. So we have to make sure the name is there because that's how we are going to get marks. Okay. If you don't have your name on the report, then we don't know that it's you who did it. Okay. Take screenshot evidence showing the database formula you used to calculate the lowest points value value. Place this in your evidence. Screenshot. Okay, so under evidence 6, you need to put that. So let's go back to our database. So this is what they would also want to see. Okay. So I'm just clicking here to stretch it out so that the formula can actually be seen, because this is what they are actually looking for. How did you get, right? So you use your snipping tool and you click on new, and then you check that. Okay, so this is what you paste under evidence 6. Okay, so under evidence 6, you copy and paste this. Okay, and then we have said, now we want to make sure that we have sorted, right? We want to make sure that we have sorted. We want to group and sort our information. So you can use this option where it says group and sort. Okay. Let me go to home so that you can see that this can actually be done in different views. Okay. So this is the data that we have, right? So when we have this data, we want to make sure that we put on the sorting, right? So now we are putting on the sorting. And we said, if you go to your report design, yeah, we can do the sorting. So what do you want to sort by? We are going to sort by 2 things. So when you click group and sort, you will see that there is this option that is going to come at the bottom. So it's saying add a group, add a sort. And remember, we said we are not doing any grouping. So it's always add a sort. So when you click on add a sort, it's going to tell you that you want to sort by what? So it's either I'm doing this using the layout view or the design view that we saw earlier. So now I'm going to go in question paper and see which sorting did they want. Sort data into ascending order of yard class and descending order of points. So ascending yard class. We'll do the first one, yard class, ascending, select the field. So I'll select yard class, right? When I select yard class, I'm going to say with descending A on top, that's descending, right? Then, sorry, let's go to the question paper. It says yard class ascending, right? So A on top going down to Z, that's ascending. Then descending of points. So I'm going to select points and choose on descending. So I'm going to go down here. Here I've done a sorting, right, with yard class with A on top, right? Now I'm going to click on add sort again. Then I'm going to say now I want to add another sorting on points. How do I want to put on my sorting? Okay, now I'm saying I want to sort my data descending order of points, right? So top to bottom. Now, this is no longer ascending. This is no longer A, B, C, D. This is no longer 1, 2, 3, 4. It's now 10, 9, 8 going down. So top, largest on top, right? So smallest to largest. So here I want to say largest to smallest, right? So this is what I want. I want to sort it from largest to smallest. Okay. So I've done my sorting. I always have to make sure that I remember to save my data, right? So when you are done, you now know that this is the report. And this report that I have done, I have to print it. Okay. And let's check the other thing. I think it said nothing else should be displayed. Source data includes that calculates, labels this value. Okay. I think this is everything. We've taken the screenshot of that one for our evidence. And this is all that we want. Right. This is all that the question has asked. Okay. So this is how we do our report. This is how we do our question 14. So this is what we are going to have at the end. And this is our report, top female. And we can go on report view. This on our home. Let's see print preview. So to see how it's going to show when we print. Okay, so this is how it's going to show. Our data is showing out clearly, right? And this is the data that we have. So we can go ahead and print our report. Okay, I'm just going to close this print preview and then we can print our data. Okay, and when you see that the data is moved, like for example, I can see that this one is moved, my 11. I think it moved because we changed, right, the size when we wanted to take a screenshot. Okay, so we can always move back. So let me close this report. We go to our home and we go to our design, right? So because it has increased going down, that's why our 11 is now showing furthering. So you can just click it and reduce it like that. And you check on, because we want the 11 to show direct. So we have reduced the 11 so that it shows, right? It got in too much a bit, so you can just click there and just drag it out. So just that, and our report is done. Yeah, we can do this, and we have done this. So this is the end of question 14. Hope you enjoyed. This is our report, and we can see our data. Our lowest point score is actually low. Okay, so let's try it. See you on question 15. Bye for now.